Shalom Chavarim. Welcome to our study of Akkadian, East Semitic, which is the closest we have to Proto-Semitic, the language of trade for about 1,000 years. It formed the foundation, the linguistic foundation of the ancient Near East. But before we study, let's remind ourselves that our God sees, our God provides. Amen. Today we want to translate the exercises that appear in John Hunegard's Akkadian Grammar, Chapter 3, Exercise F. And today we're going to translate numbers 1 through 10. And I'll be making explanatory comments as we go, because I want us to feel comfortable with the language so that when we read Hammurabi or the Gilgamesh epic, we have confidence that we're reading it correctly. Churatsum u kaspum shawardi ichliku. Now in Akkadian, the subject typically comes first. Then we have the object, then we have the verb. That's different than we saw in Hebrew. Hebrew is a verb, subject, object language, but Akkadian is typically subject, object, verb. So the verb is typically the last word in the sentence. So this is the verb, ichliku. And it comes from the root chalak. H with a rocker, lamed, kov. It means to perish. And the prefix and the suffix indicate that it is third masculine plural. It's a preterite. So we identify this as a G preterite, third masculine plural from cheth, lamed, kov. Now, preterite is a simple past. It's a snapshot occurrence. It's a simple occurrence. This is a very important verbal form in Akkadian. So, they perished. Now, who is the subject? Notice that we have haratsum u kaspum. Both of these have the nominative case ending. So the nouns in Akkadian are inflected for case or function in the sentence. So the subject is gold and silver, but typically we say silver and gold. And the order of the Akkadian nouns is typically the opposite of how we would say it in English. So we would say the silver and the gold of. Akkadian doesn't have asher as Hebrew does, the relative pronoun, but it has shah. And Hebrew also has shah, but typically in poetic texts. So it is the silver and the gold of the male servant. That is the subject. So this noun phrase is the subject of the verb. The silver and the gold of the male servant perished. Simple past. The silver and the gold of the male servant perished. And actually what you see here is the genitive plural ending. So that would be servants. Servants. The silver and the gold of the servants, the male servants, perished. Period. So that's number one. So you're getting a feel of the language. This is the subject. This is the verb. Shawardi is a relative expression of the male servants. Okay, number two. Amtam sharatim, tatzbat. The verb appears at the end. Tatzbat is from the root tzare, beith, tau. It has a ta prefix, which is second masculine singular. You seized. Now the subject, or here the object, is marked by am. This is the accusative ending. So the accusative case marks the direct object in languages, and it does in Akkadian as well. So, you seized the female servant of the queen. So the im is the genitive case. You seized the female servant of the queen. Period. So the subject is you, as marked by ta. So we have this phrase, the female servant of the queen, that is the object. The subject is you, and this is the verb. You seized the female servant of the queen. Number 3. Kakadam shamare, sharakin, ina imukim tamchatzi. So here we have the verb at the end. The verb is tamchatzi. And notice here we have a ta performative and an e suffix. So this is a 2fs verb. The subject is second feminine singular, you feminine singular. The root is machatz, which means to strike. Machatz, to strike. So you struck kakadam, that's the object. You struck the head of the son, that's the genitive case. You struck the head of the son of the thief. A sharakim is a sharakum is a thief, nominative. Sharakim is genitive. Ina amukim, with force. So the verb is at the end, as is typical in Akkadian. You, feminine singular, struck the head of the son of the thief with force. So what are the cases that we have? We have accusative, then we have genitive. 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 You struck the head of the son of the thief with force. Number 4. Zabum in a libim shamatim. Now this one doesn't have a verb because the word matim is land or country in the genitive case. Zabum is army. You know, in Hebrew, zava is host. It can be an individual troop or it can be an army. The Lord is Adonai Tzavaoth, the Lord of hosts. So, the army was in the heart of the land. So this would be a verbless clause. There's not a verb here. The army was in the heart of the land. That's a verbless clause. And we would pick up the tense from other contextual clues in the context. Whatever tense is being used before or after or makes the most sense would be adopted by this clause. But the army is in or was in the heart of the land. So the heart being the center, the center of the land. Number 5. Ilum inin sha mutim imchatz. There we have that root machatz again. This verb, machatz, means to strike. But here we just have an I prefix. So it is third masculine singular. Elam is God. That's the subject as indicated by the nominative case. The God struck the eyes of the mutim, the eyes of the man. The God struck the eyes of the man. Now, how many eyes do we have here? This is actually the dual ending, which will be appropriate for eyes. In, kind of a contracted form of ayin that we have in Hebrew. So the God struck the eyes of the man. Number 6. Shipatim inabitim sha umim ishriku. So the verb is at the end, as we would expect, ishriku. The root is sharak, esh, resh, kov, which is to steal. The prefix e and the suffix u makes that a third masculine plural. They stole. So who is the they? This is the impersonal they. We're not sure who they are. They stole the wool in the house of the umim, the mother. They stole the wool which was in the house of the mother. So we can call that an impersonal they. We can say it was stolen. The wool in the house of the woman, the mother, was stolen. The wool in the house of the mother was stolen. Number 7. Ilu sharam eli matim ishkunu. So the verb is at the end. Shakan here means to install. To install. And we have the e prefix, the u suffix. That would be a third masculine plural from the root shakan. It's a G preterite, third masculine plural from shakan. So, the gods are the subject. That's the nominative case ending, masculine plural. The gods installed, whom did they install? Am marks the direct object. That's the accusative case. The gods installed the king over the land. The gods installed the king over the land. So in ancient Assyria and Babylonia, the speakers of Akkadian, they viewed the earthly king as the representative of the gods. We're going to translate Kodetz Hammurabi, and on the top of that stele we have Hammurabi receiving the commands from Shamash, the sun god. So this is right in keeping with the worldview of the ancient Assyrians and Babylonians. So the gods installed the king over the land. Now number 8, iti maritin sha awilim ata. Now we don't have a verb because the last word in this string of words is you. Maritim is the word for daughters. It's plural. It has the genitive case because it comes after a preposition. So, with the daughters of, an ovilum is a peer. Whatever status you have, an ovilum is your peer. This appears in the genitive case because it's the object of shop. So, with the daughters of the peer are you. You are with the daughters of the peer, meaning your peer. If you're middle class, then that person will be middle class. If you're upper class, the person will be upper class. If you're lower class, that person will be lower class. Many of the laws of Hammurabi begin Shuma Awilum, if a peer, if your peer does something. Now, notice that number 9 has 2 clauses. The first clause terminates in this verb. Dabum sha sharim idinu. The root here is daleth nun nun, which means to become strong. We have an e performative. We have an u suffix, third masculine, plural. So the army of the king grew strong. Zabum sha sharim idinu. The army of the king grew strong. So this is the subject as marked by the nominative case. This is the genitive case because it's the object of shop. The army of the king grew strong. Ana libim sha matim ishtu narin ikshudu. Now, kashad means to conquer. To conquer. Kashad is the root. We have an e prefix, an u suffix. So they conquered to the heart of the land from the river. So we would have a tendency in English to put from the river first. So the order in Akkadian is often the opposite as we would have it in a smoothed out English translation. They conquered from the river to the heart of the land. So that's the expanse that they conquered. From the river to the heart or center of the land. So from the beginning, the army of the king grew strong. They conquered from the river to the heart of the land. Number 10. Bitum sha'awilan. Idmik. Idmik is the verb, the last word in the clause. Damak means to prosper. And we have a e performative that makes a third masculine singular. He prospered. The he is the bitum. You learn the word bayith is house in Hebrew. The construct form of house is beith. In Akkadian, bitum. The house of the peer prospered. The house of the awilam prospered. Bitum sha'awilam idmik. The house of the awilam prospered. Well, this is the transliteration of the Akkadian cuneiform writing system. You can see that this is not complicated. It's a bit different than Hebrew, especially in the word order. But once you get the writing system, we must decipher the wedges and know which sounds they represent, and then we can get to this step of actually translating what we're saying. So transliterated Akkadian is not too difficult, but that's where we start in our enterprise of reading Akkadian texts. And so hopefully this exercise got you one step closer to feeling comfortable with the Akkadian language. It is the foundation of the ancient Near East. Not only is the Codex Hammurabi written in it, but also the Gilgamesh epic, one of the most famous epics of the ancient Near East. May the Lord bless you and keep you as you enjoy this study of Akkadian. Shalom.